We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180. Our guest by phone is Jake Suski from Stop Special Interest Money Now.
Stop Special Interest Money Now. You had a question you wanted to ask him.
I actually have a whole bunch of questions to ask him. In fact, we may have Jake back again before November.
Do it.
Well, one question that really kind of bugs me, and I keep on talking about this, the raw power in Sacramento. This was supposed to be on the June ballot, right?
That's correct.
Why did it not end up on the June ballot, and why did it end up on the November ballot instead?
You know, it was one of those midnight, end of the deadline bills that was sent to the governor's desk, and he signed it as everyone went off to vacation, and the reporters weren't paying quite as much attention, and the voters probably didn't notice it had happened. And he signed a bill that basically said that any initiatives, you know, from that date forward would be put on a general election ballot rather than a primary ballot.
And Jake, why would they do that? Why would they do that?
Well, what they were worried about was turnout. You know, they know that their turnout for folks, you know, special interests that want to make sure that this thing doesn't pass. You know, they want to get out the union members and other folks that they think they can rally in support of it, you know, in opposition to it. They thought that November might be their best chance to do it. You know, and the ironic thing about that is that Governor Brown was the governor that first signed a bill in his first term in office to allow initiatives beyond the June ballot. So it was a bit of an about-face for him, done kind of at midnight, because the special interest asked him to do it. But, you know, we hope, you know, that the better turnout, the more voters coming out to vote, is going to help us. We really hope that. Understand that there's going to be a lot of things on the ballot in November, including the presidential election, but that the more folks that come out to vote, the more individual voters that want to make their voices heard, the better off we're going to be.
So Jake, basically what you're saying is that Governor Brown was for it before he was against it.
Yeah, that's right. Bit of a flip-flop.
So will yours be on the ballot a yes or a no?
We want a yes vote. We don't have a proposition number yet. We'll get that in probably the next month or so. But a yes vote on the Stop Special Interest Money initiative.
You know, earlier you talked about pay to play. Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, I can. You know, there's a case that happened. You know, an investigation that was done about a year ago by the LA Times, and this was a pretty epic story. The Los Angeles community colleges, there was a series of bonds passed in LA that would basically allow for the reconstruction and improvements of a bunch of the community colleges down there. And the LA Times did a week-long story on this where they took a look at not only the spending on the construction and who the money went to, but also with the Board of Trustees that were overseeing this project, what kind of money they were raising for their campaign and who was paying for the bond campaign. And they found waste on an epic proportion. Architectural designs for $2 million for pieces of architecture that weren't even going to go in the place they were designing it for. Buildings that were, you know, misdesigned and misbuilt by different contractors. And the reason why these contractors got those contracts is because they were donors to the Board of Trustees. $340,000 in donations by different contractors that went on to get, you know, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars in contracts from the same Board of Trustees. You know, if Stop Special Interest Money Now passes, it'll end that cycle. It won't allow anybody that wants a contract from the government, you know, that's either getting one or in the process of applying for one, to contribute to the politicians that are handing out that money.
Who's going to write the negative when this is on the ballot? Do you know?
You know, at this point, the most vocal opposition to this initiative has come from the unions, which, you know, they are a very organized and vocal bunch in Sacramento. They've organized a committee against this. They've raised, I think, $8 million, $7 million already for their committee, and they're going to put even more money behind it. I think that there will be some corporations that will be quietly behind the scenes trying to put money to kill the initiative. We're going to be outspent by a significant margin, but we've got the power of the people, hopefully, on our side.
Well, that's why I was thinking if it was a no vote, people are so discouraged with all the money that's being taken out of their pocket that they vote no without reading things on everything.
Yeah, well, that's why it's important to educate people about this. Plain and simple. We want everyone to read it for themselves when they get their ballot, sample ballots, and when they get the descriptions for it. Take a look at it. You know, the campaign against this initiative is going to be one that claims that it's deceptive. They're going to claim that that the initiative, you know, is unbalanced and favors corporations. And when you take a look at it, read it for yourself. Every one of these reforms that's mentioned in the initiative applies both to unions and corporations. It applies to the special interests that have all the power and control in Sacramento.
We're having a conversation with Jake Suski from Stop Special Interest Money Now.
Well, Jake, in my reviewing the voter attitudes and things over the years, it appears that only about 30 to 35% are educated on anything that when they're going to vote on. And it all boils down to, what are you going to give to me or do for me that's going to get your vote?
You know, that is a bit of a skeptical point of view. I know that a lot of folks don't have a whole lot of time to get too engaged in politics. But what this actually gets for you is a better voice. You know, the less influence that these special interests have over politicians, one hopes that they're going to start listening to their voters and their constituents a little more. You know, just some stats for you. 60% of all of the bills that pass in Sacramento are written by the attorneys and the lobbyists for special interests. They're sponsored bills that are passing in Sacramento.
Scary thought.
Something like, I think it was 39% or 29% of all contributions to our state legislative candidates come from inside their district. That means 71% is coming from outside of their district. That money that's coming from outside of their district isn't coming from their constituents, it's coming from special interests. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're listening to people that paid the money to get them in the job, and if it's going to stop, the voters have to step up and say we've had enough.
No. Another question as far as the special interests are concerned. I mean, what are they saying about this? What's the campaign that they're starting to build? What are you seeing? What can we explain to people isn't true?
Well, they're calling it at this point the Corporate Deception Act, because they're claiming that corporations will be able to continue to spend money on independent campaigns and super PACs and all sorts of other activities. And really what they're trying to do is talk about what the initiative can't do, because they don't have any defenses for what the initiative does do. You know, the Supreme Court has made it very clear that free speech is important, and there's nothing the voters can do about that in California as far as passing an initiative that would be upheld in the court. What they can do is cut that direct tie, those direct contributions from these special interests to the politicians. And that's exactly what this does. It's not imbalanced. It applies the same standard to both corporations and unions, and it takes a lot of money out of politics. You know, we looked at it, and it's about $90 million in 2010 that went to statewide candidates, you know, the legislature and the governor's race, from unions and corporations, and this would eliminate that money.
Two questions for you, Jake. First, if you don't, do you have the signatures that you need? And if you don't, how are you going to go about getting them?
This is qualified. This will be on the ballot in November. So signatures are not the important thing at this point. The important thing is frankly to spread the word, and hopefully we need to raise some money because we know that special interests are going to spend every penny they have to make sure that they don't lose any power in Sacramento and in local government. So, you know, if folks want to contribute, they can go to stopspecialinterestmoney.org and sign up to help and sign up to contribute to the campaign.
One last question I have for you. We have about a minute left. This is kind of based on that Idaho law, isn't it, that passed and went through the Supreme Court, so we know this thing could pass?
Yeah, different aspects of this law, of these reforms, have been in place in other states. You know, the automatic deduction ban from employees' paychecks has been put in place in Idaho and other states across the country. It's been upheld in the Constitution. The direct contribution ban from corporations is currently in place in the federal system. You know, in federal campaigns, corporations are not allowed to directly contribute. It's kind of funny, but what they do to get around it is they use the same method that the unions use to raise their money, and that's automatic paycheck withholding.
Right. Jake,
and this initiative actually would prevent them from doing that in California. So
okay.
it sees ahead of the game and ensures that there aren't any loopholes.
Okay, and it's stopspecialinterest.org. Jake, thank you for the time.
StopSpecialInterestMoney.org.
And we'd love to have you back.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jake. We'll see you in 167 hours in Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.